There is a specific silence that only exists at family dinners when you owe someone at the table money. It does not sound like awkwardness. It does not sound like anger. It sounds like the half-second pause your uncle leaves before he says, "So how is the new job going?" And everyone at the table hears the real question underneath it. Everyone. Including you. Including him. Including your mom, who pretends she did not hear it because she is the one who told you to ask him in the first place. That silence has a cost, not a metaphorical cost, an actual, measurable, financial cost that will likely exceed whatever dollar amount you borrowed, and almost nobody calculates it before they take the money. Here is what nobody tells you about borrowing from family. The interest rate is 0%. The actual price is everything else. I want to walk you through the math on this. Not the emotional math, although we will get there. The real, hard, dollar-denominated math of what happens to your financial life when you turn a family member into a creditor. Because once you see the full accounting, you will understand why a 22% credit card might genuinely be cheaper than your dad's interest-free loan. And that sounds insane until you run the numbers. My name is Kai, and I spend way too much time thinking about the financial decisions that look smart on paper, but slowly dismantle your life in ways that never show up on a bank statement. If that sounds like the kind of thing you think about at 2 a.m. when you cannot sleep, subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. It will help more than you think. Let me start with what actually happens the moment money moves between family members. Because there is a mechanical change that occurs in the relationship, and it is not something you can willpower your way around. It is structural. Before you borrowed the money, you and your brother had a relationship between equals. Maybe not financially equal, but socially equal. You could say no to Thanksgiving. You could skip his kid's birthday party. You could disagree with him about politics without it meaning anything beyond disagreement. You had freedom in the relationship because neither of you held leverage over the other. The moment he hands you $8,000, that symmetry breaks. Not because he is a bad person, not because he is going to hold it over your head on purpose, but because the dynamic has changed at a structural level. He gave you something you needed and could not get on your own. That creates an imbalance that will sit underneath every single interaction you have until the debt is repaid. Sometimes long after, you will feel it. You will feel it when he makes a comment about your spending, and you cannot push back because you owe him money. You will feel it when he asks you to help him move on a Saturday, and you cannot say no because you owe him money. You will feel it when you want to buy something for yourself, something you earned, something you can afford, and a voice in the back of your head says he might find out and think you are not taking the debt seriously. You will feel it when you post a vacation photo on Instagram and immediately wonder if he saw it. You will feel it when your phone rings and his name pops up and your stomach tightens for half a second before you answer. That half second did not exist before the loan. Now it lives there permanently. This is not guilt. Guilt is temporary. This is a restructuring of the power dynamics inside your family. And it has a price tag. Let me put numbers on this, because this is where people get uncomfortable, and that is exactly where we need to go. Money entanglements inside families are one of the fastest ways to change the relationship, even when nobody meant for it to. Now, why does that matter financially? Because your family network is one of your most valuable economic assets, and most people never think of it that way. Your family is your emergency childcare when your daycare falls through and you cannot miss work. That saves you $200 per incident, and for most working parents, it happens 4 to 6 times a year. Your family is your free Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner, which if you had to cater or eat out would cost $300 to $500 per event. Your family is your storage for the stuff that does not fit in your apartment. A storage unit runs $100 to $200 per month. Your family is your co-signer potential if you ever need a lease or a loan. Your family is the phone call at 11 p.m. when your car breaks down and you need a ride, which otherwise costs you a $150 tow plus $60 for an Uber. Your family is the safety net that lets you take career risks, because you know that if everything goes wrong, if the business fails, if the job disappears, you will not end up on the street. Start adding that up and you realize your family is not just an emotional support system, it is an economic engine, one you do not notice until it stops running. And those numbers do not have to be exact to be true, because the point is, you are replacing free support with paid services the moment the relationship gets weird. Economists call this social capital, and it has a dollar value. Researchers at the University of Minnesota estimated that strong family support networks provide the equivalent of $10,000 to $15,000 per year in economic value through shared resources, emergency support, and reduced need for paid services. Let me make that concrete. If your family network is worth even $10,000 a year to you in practical economic value, and a damaged relationship reduces that by just 30%, you are losing $3,000 per year in real financial support. Over 10 years, that is $30,000. Over 20 years, with the compounding cost of having to pay for services you used to get for free, the number climbs past $75,000. All from a loan that saved you $1,200 in interest. This is the math that nobody runs. Because when you are sitting across from your sister and she is writing you a check, you are not thinking about childcare costs in 2031. You are thinking about the rent that is due on Friday. And that is exactly why this trap works. So let me do this like an accountant. Let's say you need $8,000. Option 1, you borrow it from your dad at 0%. Option 2, you put it on a personal loan at 11% over 24 months. The personal loan costs you roughly $1,000 in interest. That is the price of keeping the relationship clean. Now compare that to what happens when things get weird with dad. You lose one weekend of emergency childcare per month because the dynamic shifted. At $200 per incident, that is $2,400 a year. Dad's free money is now costing you more than double what the bank would have charged. And you are not allowed to complain about it. Because it was help. And the worst part is, you do not even get to call it a bill. It just shows up as favors that stop getting offered and nobody ever explains why. We have not even counted the holiday tension, the career advice you stop asking for, or the co-signer you can no longer call. When you borrow money from a family member and it damages the relationship, even partially, you are not just losing a relationship. You are losing access to that economic infrastructure, and the loss compounds every year. I talked to a guy last year who borrowed $5,000 from his older brother to cover 3 months of rent after a layoff. He paid it back in full within 8 months, every dollar, and he thought that was the end of it. But 2 years later, his brother still brings it up. Not directly. Never directly. He brings it up sideways. A comment at dinner about people who live beyond their means. A joke about how some people always need bailing out. The money is paid back. The debt is not. And now this guy drives 40 minutes to a different mechanic instead of asking his brother, who is a mechanic, for help. He pays $100 more per repair to avoid a conversation. He pays for childcare he used to get for free because asking feels different now. The $5,000 loan that he repaid in full is still costing him money every single month. That is the trap. You can pay the principal back in 8 months, but the interest gets charged in tone, in jokes, in who offers help and who quietly stops. And here is what makes it irreversible. You cannot renegotiate the terms. With a bank, if you cannot make a payment, you call them, you restructure, you negotiate a hardship plan. It is transactional. Nobody's feelings are involved. The bank does not care about you, and that is actually a feature, not a bug. The relationship is clean precisely because it is impersonal. With family, every late payment is a personal failure. Every conversation about the timeline is loaded with subtext. If you fall behind, you are not just a borrower who missed a payment. You are the sibling who does not keep their word. The debt stops being financial and becomes moral. And moral debts do not have payment plans. They do not have interest rates either. They have something worse. They have memory. Your brother will not charge you a late fee. He will just remember. He will remember the next time you ask for something. He will remember the next time there is a family disagreement and he needs ammunition. He may never say it out loud. He does not have to. You both know it is there, sitting under every conversation like a rock under a mattress. You cannot see it, but you feel it every time you lie down. There is a reason that formal lending was invented. Not because strangers were generous enough to lend to each other, but because borrowing from people you know was destroying communities. The earliest banks in Mesopotamia, the lending houses in Renaissance Florence, the credit unions in 19th century Germany, all of them emerged because societies figured out, through centuries of painful experience, that financial relationships need to be separated from personal ones. The entire modern banking system exists because humanity learned the hard way that money between people who love each other is acid, not always, but often enough that we built an entire global industry to buffer it. And yet, every year, Americans lend and borrow billions of dollars between family members because it feels easier, it feels warmer, and the terms look better on paper. 0 interest, no credit check, flexible repayment, no awkward phone calls to a bank. It looks like the best deal in the world until you realize that the collateral is not your house or your car. The collateral is Thanksgiving. The collateral is your mom being able to enjoy her own birthday dinner without navigating the tension between her children. Now, I am not saying you should never accept financial help from family. There are situations where it is genuinely the right move, the only move. What I am saying is that if you do it, you need to go in with your eyes open about what it actually costs. And you need to structure it in a way that protects the relationship, not just the money. Here is what most people get wrong. They treat family loans casually, precisely because it is family. No written agreement, no repayment schedule, no conversation about what happens if you cannot pay on time. They think formality would be insulting, that putting it in writing implies you do not trust each other. But the opposite is true. The formality is the protection. A written agreement does not damage trust. It prevents the misunderstandings that damage trust. When everything is verbal, your brother remembers lending you $8,000 to be paid back in 6 months. You remember it as a year. He remembers it as a loan. You started thinking of it as a gift halfway through. Neither of you is lying. You just never wrote it down, and now you have 2 different versions of reality living under the same family roof. I have seen this exact scenario destroy relationships between people who loved each other deeply. 2 people, both good, both honest, both convinced the other one is being unreasonable. And the whole thing could have been avoided with a half-page document and a 5-minute conversation that felt uncomfortable at the time, but would have saved years of resentment. If you are going to borrow from family, treat it like a business transaction, not because you do not love each other, but because you do. Write down the amount, the repayment schedule, the timeline, And what happens if life gets in the way? Make the payments automatic if possible. Set it up so neither of you ever has to bring it up in conversation. The goal is to make the financial relationship invisible so the personal relationship can breathe. And if you are on the other side of this, if someone in your family is asking you for money, the most loving thing you can do is be honest about your limits. Do not lend money you cannot afford to lose, because statistically, you probably will lose it. A 2019 study found that roughly 43% of people who lend money to family or friends lose some or all of the amount. If you lend $5,000, mentally write off $5,000. If it comes back, great. If it does not, the relationship survives because you are never counting on it. And if you cannot afford to lose it, say no. Say no clearly, say no kindly, but say no. A hard no today preserves the relationship. A reluctant yes, followed by resentment, destroys it slowly over months. And slow destruction is worse, because by the time either of you notices, it is too late to fix. The financial advice industry loves to treat money as pure math. Save this percentage, invest in that index fund, optimize your tax bracket, cut the lattes, and that math matters, it genuinely does. But the biggest financial decisions most people make are not about math at all. They are about relationships. They are about the phone call you make when you are desperate and the person on the other end who says yes before you finish asking. That generosity is real. That love is real. But love does not change the structural mechanics of what happens when money enters a relationship that was never built to handle it. A bridge can be beautiful and still collapse if you drive a truck across it that exceeds the weight limit. The bridge is not flawed. You just asked it to carry something it was not designed for. Most family relationships are not designed to carry debt. They are designed to carry support, affection, shared history, and the occasional screaming argument about nothing that blows over by dessert. When you add a creditor-debtor dynamic to that architecture, you are loading weight onto a structure that was never engineered for it. Sometimes it holds. Often it cracks. And once it cracks, the repair costs more than the debt ever did. The reason people keep making this mistake is because the moment you need money is the exact moment you are least equipped to think clearly about the consequences. You are stressed, you are scared, and the path of least resistance is the person who will say yes without running your credit score. That is not a decision. That is a reflex, and reflexes are expensive when they involve other people's money and your family's trust. So the next time you are staring at a financial emergency, and the easiest call is to your parents, or your sibling, or your cousin, pause. Run the full math, not the interest rate math, the relationship math, the lost social capital math, the silent tension at every family dinner for the next 2 years math, the Instagram post anxiety math, the one-word text reply math, and then decide if 0% interest is really the deal it looks like. Because the most expensive loan you will ever take is the one that does not charge interest. It charges something you cannot earn back. You can rebuild a credit score. You can refinance a loan. You cannot refinance Thanksgiving. If this video made you think twice about a conversation you have been putting off, subscribe for more content that breaks down the financial decisions nobody warns you about. I will see you in the next one.